Good morning, everyone. So now I'll be going through the part B of the price discrimination essay. So for part B, we will think about whether, to what extent, is the practice of price discrimination beneficial. Okay, so let's do some thinking aloud. To what extent means you need to tell me whether is it to a large extent or a small extent, and you should do so in the overall evaluation. Okay, and obviously there must be two sides to it, to the essay. Okay, is it beneficial? You think about the costs and the benefits to tell me whether overall it's beneficial or not. And I think when I'm thinking aloud, I would also think about beneficial to who. That is something that I would think of is if I were a student. You ask me whether is it beneficial, and my next question would be to who. And so who are some economic agents that we can consider? Number one would be the consumers. And I told you before, right? Recently, we were talking about how consumers aim to maximize their utility. They aim to maximize their consumer surplus. Okay? Their consumer surplus, which is something that can be seen via graphs. Okay? Can be something that's reflected in a graph. Producers aim to maximize profits. Okay? Or we can say that they aim to maximize their producer surplus. Thirdly, we can also talk about benefits to society in general. And for microeconomics, we think about the microeconomic goals of efficiency and equity. Under efficiency, we can consider allocative efficiency. Now, boys and girls, don't just blindly memorize, but think about it. Seriously think about it. If you are setting up a new society, a new economy, right? When you're setting up a new economy, wouldn't this be something that you want? That you would want goods to be produced in the right quantity, right? Which maximizes consumer and producer surplus. Wouldn't you want that to happen where there are no shortages and surpluses? If not, the whole economy is going to be in a mess, right? Allocative efficiency. All right. Now, the next idea would be that of equity. If we were to set up our own society, think about it. Wouldn't you want the allocation of resources to be fair to some extent? Okay. And just to recap something that we mentioned under price mechanism. The price mechanism can ensure the allocative efficiency component. Right? There would be no more shortages and surpluses. Okay, consumer and producer surplus would be maximized. There would be allocative efficiency, but it cannot ensure that there is equity. Do you remember that? Okay, and so I'm just recapping, I'm just making links to some of the concepts that we have learned in scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. All right, now, in order to teach you the costs and benefits of price discrimination, most of which belong to costs and benefits under first degree price discrimination, okay, I would like to first go through what first degree price discrimination is about. Okay, I would like to improve your understanding on it. So I would now like to request that you turn to page 69 of your lecture notes. Of your market structure lecture notes, page 69. Now, what exactly is first degree price discrimination? It is when a monopolist charges a different price for each unit of the commodity sold. he charges the maximum price that each buyer is able and willing to pay. Sounds familiar? Leaving the buyers with no consumer surplus. Think about it. Under first degree price discrimination, there is no consumer surplus at all. Okay? So, in order to really understand this, I need to recap on what consumer surplus is. Okay? Consumer surplus is the maximum price that consumers are willing and able to pay minus the actual price of the good. Do you remember I went through that? What? So, maximum, let's say, the maximum price you're willing to pay for the best chicken rice in Singapore is $5. And if the actual price of the chicken rice is $5, let me ask you a question before we calculate. How would you feel about this situation as a consumer? You wouldn't like it. You would feel upset about it, that you have no consumer surplus at all. Hey, the maximum price you're willing to pay is 5 and the actual price is 5. That's not good for the consumers. The consumer surplus would be equivalent to 0. Can you imagine that for first degree price discrimination, that this is exactly what happens? If the maximum price you're willing and able to pay is 5, somehow the producer knows it, and I know it's an unrealistic assumption that is made in first degree price discrimination, but the producer will know it and he will charge you that exact same price that you're willing and able to pay. He extracts, okay, basically the producer extracts, okay, the entire consumer surplus of consumers. This is not a nice situation to be in for the consumers, right? And this is what happens for first degree price discrimination. There will be no consumer surplus because the producer knows and he will charge you the maximum price that you are willing and able to pay. Alright, so referring to the figure below. Now, I'm going to recap on what I've gone through with you on how the shape of the demand curve is derived. Now, demand is equals to marginal benefits. It represents the marginal benefits. Do you remember my chocolate cake example? For the first unit of chocolate cake, you derive a very high level of benefits from that first unit, that 1 unit of chocolate cake. Okay, that 1 extra unit of chocolate cake gives you a lot of satisfaction, so the maximum price you're willing and able to pay is willing and able to pay for the first unit, okay, would be $7. And because it's chocolate cake, you'll be like, you know, the second unit, alright, by the time it comes to the second unit, you'll be like, okay, you're a bit sick of the chocolate cake already, right? So the marginal benefits that the second unit of chocolate cake brings you is lower. It will be the maximum price you're willing and able to pay would be $6. And this is due to the law of diminishing marginal utility. You get less and less benefits from each and every extra unit of chocolate cake you consume. By the third unit, you find it pretty disgusting. Okay, so the marginal benefits falls further, and the maximum price you're willing and able to pay for that would be $5. Okay, and think about the situation I was telling you about, the very unrealistic assumption that the producer knows exactly how much you are willing and able to pay for each and every unit. And that is not a situation that you would like, because he would have extracted all your consumer surplus. So I'm going to explain now. Let's say this producer knows that for the first unit of chocolate cake, the maximum price you're willing and able to pay is 7. He knows, and he charges you the exact same price of $7. You wouldn't be happy. right? He has extracted all your consumer surplus. You have no more consumer surplus. Let's say for the second unit of chocolate cake that he sells you, he knows that the maximum price you're willing and able to pay is $6, and he charges you the exact same price of $6. You'll be like, wow, how does the producer know? It is obviously a very unrealistic assumption for first degree price discrimination. And for the third unit of chocolate cake that you consume, he also knows that the maximum price you're willing and able to pay is $5. Now think about it. The producer knows everything, every price that you're willing and able to pay for each and every unit of output, and he charges you accordingly. You are left with no consumer surplus for each and every unit of the good that you consume. And that is the case of first degree price discrimination, boys and girls. Let's go back to the definition. It is where the monopolist charges a different price for each and every unit of the commodity sold. He charges the maximum price that each buyer is willing and able to pay. There is no consumer surplus at all. The producer benefits, the consumer loses out, right? Okay, and why do I need to recap on this to help you understand this? Because it would have a big impact on whether or not you can understand the costs and benefits of first degree price discrimination. Okay, so you would notice that as you fill up, okay, I think we filled up this table before. Price of the last unit, $5, $4. Now if you take the time to fill it up, you would notice that the demand curve would be equivalent to the marginal revenue curve. The demand curve would be equivalent to the marginal revenue curve. Please highlight this result. I think I've gone through this with you before, but we can just go through this again. I don't think all of you got it the last time round. That the demand curve is equivalent to the marginal revenue curve. And this is the result that we get under first degree price discrimination. Now, let's go through some of the benefits. Now, let's think about answering the question already, right? What are some of the benefits of practicing first degree price discrimination? Let's answer the question now. Okay? Now, let's go to your lecture notes. Okay, turn to page 73 of your market structure lecture notes, where the costs and benefits of price discrimination, where all the points are at. Okay? Now, with no price discrimination, this is the MR and this is the demand. Demand equals to AR, remember? Okay, it's the same thing, right? Now, with no price discrimination, MC equals to MR. This is the point of profit maximization, and this is the quantity under no price discrimination. Right? Okay, let's not bother about the price. Let's focus on the quantity. On the other hand, under price discrimination, the demand will be equals to the MR. Do you remember the result I asked you to remember just now? That we have derived that under first degree price discrimination, demand will be equals to the MR. Okay? And this will be the point of profit maximization, where MC will be equals to the MR under price discrimination. You go down and you will get the quantity under price discrimination. And okay, so you notice that under first degree price discrimination, all right, the quantity will be greater. Okay, under no PD, we know that there will be a certain kind of underproduction, right? There will be underproduction. There will be underproduction. Under Q0, when there is no price discrimination, because we know that the monopolist underproduces, there is allocative inefficiency when there is no price discrimination. Okay, here, there will be allocative inefficiency right here at Q0. Allocative inefficiency, there is underproduction when there is no price discrimination. When there is price discrimination, under QE, there will be allocative efficiency. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Okay, at QE, you go up, you hit the MC curve, and you would notice that P is equals to MC. At QE, you hit the demand curve, you get the P. At QE, you hit the MC curve, you get the MC. You will notice that at this point, P will be equals to MC. Okay, because it's the intersection of the demand and the MC curve, P will be equals to MC. Okay, so as you can see that under QE, where there's price discrimination, P equals to MC, and therefore there is allocative efficiency under first degree price discrimination. Okay, so this is the result, that the monopoly will now be producing at the price and output combination of a perfectly competitive industry where allocative efficiency is achieved. Okay, the price of the last unit of output sold equals the marginal cost. P equals to MC, okay, at QE. Okay, I'm going to show you again how I derive P equals to MC at QE. Okay, which is the quantity that's being produced under price discrimination. Okay, at QE, you hit the demand curve to get the price. And at QE, you also hit the MC curve to get the MC. And you would notice that P is equals to MC. Alright? And therefore, at QE, where there is price discrimination, there is allocative efficiency. Whereas under no price discrimination at Q0, there is an underproduction. Okay? Now, another benefit of price discrimination is that there will be a lower price for some groups of consumers. Okay? What happens if if there's only one price when there's no PD? Okay? Only certain people will be able to buy the good. Only those who are willing and able to afford the good, right? But it would be out of reach to the poor people. But with price discrimination, it's possible to segment the market, charging the richer sector a higher price and the poorer sector a lower price. For example, concessionary bus fares for senior citizens. So you can actually charge a lower price to lower income groups so that they will be able to enjoy the good. Okay, so that is the key idea, that there will be a lower price for some groups of consumers. I think, yeah, so in this sense, it could improve the equity situation for that particular market. Okay, the issue of equity. Alright, it can improve the equity for certain markets because certain consumers who previously could not afford the good when only one price was charged, they can now afford it under price discrimination. Okay, and at the same time, there would be a higher output as well. Okay, just now, if you use the same graph, it's actually the same graph as the one that we used just now. You will notice, okay, let me go through again, that under no price discrimination, MC equals to MR is here, and this would be the quantity under no PD. But with price discrimination, demand curve equals to MR curve, and this will be the point of profit maximization, and this will be the quantity under PD. And so with PD, there would definitely be a higher output, right? And you know that, okay? And you know that with a higher output, in a way, there's increased output, it makes the good or service available to more people. You can put it like it benefits in a way such that it benefits consumers. In a way, having a higher output, it benefits consumers. All right? Okay, the fourth point is another benefit of price discrimination as well. There can be supply of the good which under normal circumstances would not be made available. Okay, let me explain this. There are certain goods, okay, normally, okay, it is not profitable. Okay, the TR is less than the TC. Under normal situations where there is no price discrimination, it is not profitable. But under price discrimination, it is possible that it can be produced because the TR would be able to cover the TC. Now, I'm going to explain to you. Okay? Without price discrimination, okay, can you see that? Boys and girls, sorry, let me repeat. Look at this graph now. Okay? Demand is also equivalent to the AR. Just add it in. Look at this graph. You will see that at every single quantity, okay, the AC is higher than the AR. AC is higher than the AR at every quantity. Think about it. Which producer, if you are an economic agent, a producer, you will not want to supply this good at all, because at every single quantity, okay, the AC is greater than the AR. You will not want to produce this good, and you know what? This good will not be supplied, because at every single quantity, the AC, the cost, is greater than the revenue. It is simply not profitable to produce this good. But now, let's say if there is price discrimination, okay, the total revenue earned under price discrimination would be this. This is the TR under price discrimination, because all consumer surplus has been extracted. This is the total revenue under price discrimination that will be earned. Okay? Now, on the other hand, okay, the total cost when producing at Q, okay, would be this rectangle. So the total revenue, blue shaded area, blue area. And the total cost will be the red area now, if there is first degree price discrimination. So my question to you would be this. Okay, would the supplier now supply the good? Because we compare the blue area and the red area. It seems to me that the blue area, okay, the total revenue is a little bit larger than the red area. It seems to me that the total revenue as represented by the blue area is larger than the red area, which means that the total revenue it seems to me that the total revenue as represented by the blue area is greater than the total cost represented by the red area. Okay, So in such a situation where TR minus TC, this is a very important result when there's price discrimination, first degree price discrimination, what happens is that such a good will be produced when there's first degree price discrimination. Now let me summarize what I've just said. Under normal circumstances, it is not profitable because the AC is above the AR. The AC curve is above the AR curve. It's entirely above the AR curve all the time. It is just not possible for it to be produced because it is not profitable under normal circumstances where there is no price discrimination. But when there is price discrimination, the total revenue would be represented by the blue area, okay? And if Q is produced, okay, the total revenue would be the blue area and the total cost would be the red area. And the total revenue in this situation would be greater than the total cost. Okay, which means that it is profitable. It is profitable, or it can at least cover the costs of the producers, and therefore it is possible for producers to supply the good. Which is, and the final conclusion that, okay, one benefit of PD is that there would be supply of the good which under normal circumstances would not be made available. But it can be made available under first degree price discrimination. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of the good. Now, when we think about the disadvantages, right? Okay, go back to page 74 of the notes. Alright, on page 74. We talked about lower price for some goods of consumers, but can you add it in that there will be higher prices for other consumers as well? Okay, so this would be a disadvantage. For certain consumers, that some of them would have to pay a higher price. Okay, and another disadvantage, I think, is something that I talked about in the beginning of this video about the loss of consumer surplus. Okay, so actually now I'm going to refer to the answers that are given, that will be given out to you. The full set of answers that will be given out to you, and maybe right now, can you please copy this down? That under first degree price discrimination, one important disadvantage is that it implies that the consumer surplus that used to be enjoyed is now removed. Okay, because, and you can elaborate on, you know what you can elaborate on? I know there's not much elaboration here. You can actually explain consumer surplus. Okay, you can actually show that initially, draw the graph for consumer surplus, the one that I printed for you, and show that for normal situations, there would be quite a high amount of consumer surplus, right? That normally, okay, this is the demand curve, and this is the actual price, right? And this is the demand curve, and this would be the consumer surplus. This is for normal situations where there is one price. Go and refer to that handout that I gave you on consumer surplus, okay? And you can draw the graph to show that this is the normal situation, okay? That there is quite a high level of consumer surplus, okay? In normal situations where there is no price discrimination. But with price discrimination, there is absolutely no consumer surplus at all for first degree price discrimination. And that is one major disadvantage. You can, in fact, I think this is the biggest disadvantage for price discrimination. So if you're concerned about the balance of the essay, okay, in other words, the benefits would outweigh the costs, because you notice in your notes there are many benefits, right, to first degree price discrimination. But the cost, it's possible you just focus on the one on loss of consumer surplus, right? On the one on how, explain what consumer surplus is. If you're worried about elaboration, this is what you do. Explain what consumer surplus is using my notes. Draw the graph for consumer surplus under normal situations where there is only one price and no price discrimination. Draw the graph, explain the graph. Say that this is the normal situation, but under price discrimination, there is no consumer surplus at all. Okay, and this will be the main disadvantage for price discrimination. Okay, for some other small disadvantages, you can look at the answers, full answers that will be provided for you. Okay, and this is the end of the online tutorial for part B of the price discrimination question. I know that this part is very tough because the theory is not something that you're used to. Okay, it's difficult. Okay, but I hope that you will replay and replay this video. If you think that you don't understand, slow it down at certain points in time if you think that you need to have a better understanding. And that is what independent learning is about. Okay, and that is why I created this video for you to play and to replay on different days so that you can improve on your understanding. Okay, so that's all for this online tutorial. Thank you.